Hi there, welcome back to another Sankofa event. My name is Michaela. I'm the manager and event coordinator for Sankofa Video on Books. And today we're so happy to bring you another event. This time we have the graduates in mind. As some of you may know, we are right across the street from Howard University. So, of course, we had to do an event that helps them get prepared for life after graduation. So, today we are joined by Kyyah Abdul, and she's going to make a presentation on her book, The Prepared Graduate. Before she comes on, I just want to let you know that we will have a portion at the end for a Q&A. So, if you have any questions at all during her presentation, please type your questions in the comments. We want to hear them. We want to hear your thoughts, all of it, okay? And also, let me remind you that you can get her book at our brick and mortar store right across the street from the School of Business. That's 2714 Georgia Avenue Northwest. Or you can order it online. Yes, you can get the book delivered right to your doorstep, okay? Without further ado, let me bring on Miss Kyyah Abdul as I also read her bio. Kyyah, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for asking.
Good. We're so happy to have you. I just also have to mention that, we have flyers in our store, and the brothers that work there and the brothers that were coming in like, oh, is this gonna be in person? You know, and I had to disappoint them and let them know, sorry, this is virtual, but maybe
Virtual.
in the future, we'll have you in person if
Oh,
you're able to pass the
I would
exam.
love that. I would love that.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so next time you're about to make your way out here, just let us know.
Absolutely.
Okay, so about Kyyah Abdul, she graduated from Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science, receiving her master's in public health concentrated in urban healthcare disparities. In addition to running Career Savage, she works as a regulatory consultant for biotech and pharmaceutical companies. So, Kyyah, can you please tell us what all of that means? Because, yes,
Sure.
please tell us about Career Savage, tell us about what it means to work for a biotech pharmaceutical company, all of that.
Absolutely. First I want to start by saying I went to school in New Haven actually, and I got my undergrad degree in pre-med biology. And I think that's important to note because everyone who does pre-med feels like you're kind of trapped in this cycle of you have to go to med school because there's no other options. And I know we'll talk about this later as to why I started the book, but that's really the inception of what motivated me to create a solution for students. So I got my first job in regulatory right out of school. And essentially, what regulatory affairs is you're like the internal police at pharmaceutical companies. So you make sure that people are abiding by the federal regulations in terms of how clinical research needs to be done. You make sure that the requirements that need to be met for product approvals are actually being done correctly internally. So nothing really goes to any health authority like the FDA or the European Medicines Agency without coming across the desk of somebody in regulatory. It's impossible. So I really like that job because I have an opportunity to advocate for people of color. And most of the companies that I have worked for have specialized in diseases that disproportionately affect people of color. So the second company I went to, I specifically joined their organization because they only research sickle cell disease. And that was really important to me because I have sickle cell trait. So I this whole time in my career, I was really trying to make a connection between what I was passionate about, which was people of color, including myself, women's health, advocating for Black women, just advocating for people of color in health, because we all know clinical trial diversity is non-existent and very understandable based on historical context. But I really wanted to have an opportunity to speak in terms of how people from my community might feel and work towards changing it on the inside rather than just being on the outside. So that's why I went and got my MPH to better verse myself in terms of what it really means to understand your community. My concentration was urban healthcare disparities. So I learned a lot about like health literacy and just different things we can implement in terms of prevention for a lot of health diseases. And I've been doing it for like 6 or 7 years now, and I really like it. And I could stop working in regulatory, but I think there's a difference between when you really, really like your work and you're just doing it for the money. And I talk about this in my book as well, that it's really important to understand your why you do certain things, because without the why, you're just going to end up quitting or leaving, or it's just there'll be no longevity without a solid why. So that's essentially what all those degrees mean.
We really appreciate you doing that. I mean, I think that's so important to have someone that looks like us and that cares about, Black people's background, especially medically, with
Hmm.
the history. of how we're treated in the medical system and currently
Yep.
treated. We need you there. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
I appreciate that.
Can you tell us about Career Savage?
Yes, of course. So I started career savage, not really. In college, a lot of people used to ask me to help with their resumes because one thing I set out in school was like, I'm never going to work a job that's not relevant to my major. I just felt like it was a waste of my time. But I still had to work to pay my bills because I didn't have like a student plan. I lived off campus, all these different nuanced things in my career journey. So I just made sure to set out in working jobs that were relevant to my degree. And in doing that, a lot of my friends were like, okay, well, I'm this major. I want to figure out like how do I get a job in my field or an internship, but like I need help with my resume. The career center, not the greatest resource in terms of what's like current in like the job force. And because the job market is always changing, I can see how it's hard for colleges to adapt. I don't even know how they're integrating social media right now. They probably aren't, but nonetheless, in doing people's resumes and helping them with just different things, people would ask me to help them review their like college papers for when they were trying to transfer to a different university. And I realized like I can like make a real impact if I actually focus on this and create like a message and maybe make YouTube videos. So I wasn't serious about it until 2019 when I was in my master's program and more people were asking me to help with resumes. So of the questions I would get about public health, regulatory, pharma, biotech on LinkedIn and just like in passing, I started making YouTube videos about it because I was like, I'm tired. It was really for me to not have to repeat myself. It was not even the intention of starting a business or anything. I was like, I'm just tired of answering the
Yeah.
same
Please
question.
stop asking me. Like I said this a
Thank
million times.
you. I've already wrote a blog about it or I've already talked to this person about it. So I was like, okay, let me just make a video. So I made a YouTube video, posted it. I think I didn't look at that video. It was about public health. I didn't look at that video for like 6 months, randomly go on YouTube and it had like 34,000 views. I was like, oh, okay. So then I started looking at the comments and more people were having questions. So I just thought, okay, I keep getting asked, let me grow this into a bigger thing, kind of like with the resume before. I just started with the YouTube. Then now YouTube, I started with like actually having a website and charging people for consultations. And then eventually I was like, I want to continue each year to add something new to what I'm trying to do with this business. And that's really when I started focusing on the book because it's again just another medium to get the information out there without having to repeat myself. So selfish in nature, how Career Savage really started, but it's really become like this great community of people, even though it's small right now. It's just become this great community of people who are really interested in healthcare, tech, public health, all things that I've already done, or just understanding like how do I choose my degree, what job should I be looking for, how do I get an internship, how do I network. And I'm still making YouTube videos. They're still available. Everything is Career Savage from my LinkedIn to Instagram, TikTok, everything. So yeah, it's just it really was a natural progression. And I think that's something that I also try to highlight to people that I talk to. Successful businesses a lot of times aren't forced. And I think older generations will say successful businesses solve a problem. And if you look at how Career Savage kind of evolved, it was the same way. I was trying to solve a problem without having this force of just like focusing on the capitalistic side of it. And income has come from it, but that was never the focus.
Right, absolutely. Thank you for giving us the how it happened behind it.
Yeah,
Now can you give us the how behind the prepared graduate? I'm
of
sure they're
course.
very much connected.
Yeah, of course. So I would say the real spark to the idea came from when I had a conversation with my career advisor in college. And I was asking, okay, if I don't want to go to med school, like, can you just tell me what my options are? Almost like what I really wanted was give me a list of jobs that I could apply for after school, and I'll go ahead and play career scavenger hunt for the rest of the 4 years and just do internships and kind of check things off the list. If I like it, I don't. If I don't, move on. I got no direction. And I was actually just so irritated at the fact that you're giving me nothing but classes I can take and requirements needed to go to med school without telling me that I need to start preparing for med school sophomore year, which I didn't know. I didn't know in order to go to med school right after college, you needed to start interviewing. People are already doing interviews junior year, and I'm just talking about taking the MCAT and I'm a senior. So I'm like, well, not going to happen. But that experience and really having to cultivate my own career plan from that one conversation was that's what planted the seed for the prepared graduate. What kind of just took me over the edge was talking to people that I had communicated with in school, and them still trying to figure out what they wanted to do. And I felt like, okay, well, I really like what I do. And even though I'm adding different things, changing different things, doing social media, all these little pieces to career that I'm adding, at the end of the day, at the core, what I went for school for is still what I'm doing right now and what I'm passionate about. So I started writing the book to kind of give students a roadmap to exactly what they need to do before their junior year, their senior year, and the year after, in terms of like saving money, wealth building. I even talk about like the right investments to make and how to understand like what a 401k is, how to negotiate your salary, what kind of internships you need to be looking towards, the different jobs. As I said, play career scavenger hunt throughout college to kind of figure out, okay, I'm a business major, but that doesn't mean I want to get my MBA. Maybe I want to do business operations. Maybe I don't. Maybe I want to start my own business. Maybe I actually want to pursue something completely different that I had no idea. But you're never going to know unless you put yourself in the situations to figure out what you like and you don't like. So, yeah, the prepared graduate really just came from like, again, my YouTube viewers kind of asking me questions and feeling lost, and me feeling like there's still this issue in the college ecosystem where I just don't understand how colleges are not giving students the information they need. The answer is so simple. It's so simple, and yet the same issue persists where students are graduating without getting jobs in their relevant major, or they're graduating and they're getting paid like 30K a year when my degree costs more than that per year. I'm getting upset because it's triggering all these things that really just irritate me about the college system. So I started writing the book to, even if only one person read the prepared graduate, honestly, it will be one less person frustrated by the fact that they feel college is a waste of time. And that's why we're seeing a decrease in the number of people wanting to go to school, because what's the point?
Absolutely. Yeah. If I had you, like when I was doing undergrad, man, I would have saved so much time, like scavenger hunt for the job that I want. Like, yeah, I don't know why that
That
never
makes sense.
because yeah.
But they don't tell you. I think they also, it's just this true realistic nature of like schools kind of want to keep you in, at least my school. That's one issue I had with my undergrad was they want to keep you in the college ecosystem. They used to change like requirements for people's degrees last year, senior year, be like, oh, you need 2 more classes to graduate, and you're not being grandfathered in. That's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another part that I hope you talk about later. Go more into detail. But I spent like 15 minutes of your time, so now I'm gonna disappear and I'm gonna allow you to talk about the prepared graduate, however you want to break it down into chapters, or know, however you want to talk about it. So
okay, awesome, thank you. Okay, so the way I'll break down the prepared graduate, I think the easiest way to discuss it is in parts. There's 3 parts to the book, and it kind of walks you, as I said before, through each pivotal moment in your college experience up until your first year developing as a career professional. So in part 1, it really breaks down what kind of internships you need to look for, what you should be doing before you enter senior year. And I think a lot of people don't understand how pivotal junior year is, because a lot of people have already done internships. A lot of people have already secured job opportunities. So that summer, although you might want to travel with friends or do something that's fun and exciting, and not to say that whatever internship opportunity you find isn't going to be fun and exciting, but it really is the time to kind of hone in on what am I going to do once I graduate? Because I think a lot of anxiety settles in for people when they graduate and they don't have a job, because they didn't realize they needed to spend time junior year interning or things of that nature. As an example, I know a lot of people who interned their junior year, and from that internship, they got job offers just because they already knew people in a corporation. They already started networking, building relationships, and then by the time they get to senior year, it manifests or transitions into a job opportunity. So that's why I really stress the importance of interning and networking junior year summer in that first part of the book. Continuing into the first part of the book, I touch on senior year as well. One thing that I really struggled with, and I think a lot of us kind of struggle with this, especially with social media being at the foundation of our existence, this our generation, that's just, what it is. And I think we see people experiencing things and we're like, oh, I wish I could experience that, but we can't because we have to focus on something else. So that was an issue for me where senior year, a lot of my friends, different majors, different situations, different circumstances, were going out all the time or like at every football game or every event. And I was working. I worked all throughout college as a pharmacy technician, which was relevant to pre med. So I was really grateful for that job because it's what allowed for me to get a job in biotech so quickly, or even just in public health, healthcare right after graduating because I had made sure I was working all throughout school, paired with the internships I had done the summer before. Um, but you shouldn't let the fear of missing out or FOMO or people traveling and doing all these extravagant things really upset you or deter you from what your end goal is. Because at the end of the day, you will have an opportunity to do those things. You just have to focus junior year and senior year on finding a job that will be able to fund those activities. That's what I like to say. And now as a working professional, I think since I've graduated college, I travel all the time. I go to events, do things with my friends, and it's really because of the sacrifices I've made in those short, 12 months that allowed for me to be where I am today. So that's essentially what part one really talks about is just giving you the right foundation. The second part of the book kind of touches on the transition from you're about to transition into the real world. You're not there yet, but you're in this weird transient space where you start to feel, I experienced this, but you start to feel a little sad that you're not going to be with your friends all the time. These are people that you spent the last 4 years with. And I think post grad depression is very real, especially if you went to school in a completely different state. I was born and raised in LA, went to school in Connecticut. So having to go back to LA and redefine my adulthood, even though I had spent the past 4 or 5 years living in Connecticut, was a really hard transition for me. So in part two, I talk about those things in addition to what you need to keep doing throughout senior year, like networking, messaging people on LinkedIn, talking to former undergrad people, former alumni from your school with the same degree, asking what jobs they have, looking at those job titles and seeing how your experience matches up with those roles and how you could possibly apply to them. I talk a lot about using social media to your benefit in terms of looking for opportunities. I think nowadays you can find a job opportunity on TikTok or an internship opportunity on TikTok, or of course, LinkedIn. That's like the best working professional tool in the world because recruiters are always looking for people. I talk about setting up coffee chats with recruiters and just getting more familiar with job opportunities that are in your field. So that is why part two is one of my favorite parts. And then moving on to the last part of the book, I talk about the reality of graduating college and what that really means, and what you need to do now, whether you have a job or you don't. If you don't have a job, you need to still keep looking, and it can be exhausting and tiring, but you just kind of have to forge forward. And that's why that part of the book is actually called Forge Forward, because there's going to be a lot of, you know, the uphill battle is not over yet. You graduated college and you reach that top, but there's still another stretch that you need to go. And I think it's important that people are aware of that reality. So I touch on that. I touch on financial literacy and really understanding what it means to save, really understanding what it means to acquire wealth and grow wealth. I talk about savings accounts, the difference between a Roth IRA, 401k, and the importance of that. I talk about negotiating your salary and different tips that you can carry with you even after you've been in the working force for a year. Because a lot of times people talk about job hoppers and how they're never able to prosper, but job hoppers actually are able to acquire more money over the course of their career than anybody else because they leave an opportunity to go where they are more valued and they always end up getting the financial compensation that they deserve rather than staying in a place where they don't deserve. So that's essentially the book in totality. And I think it's important for me to address the tone in how the book is written. It's written from a very realistic space. I think there are a lot of career books that don't understand multiple perspectives. And what I talk a lot about in the book is my own personal experience of yes, I did go to college, but I also came from parents who went to college already. My parents immigrated here and they were in school, and then my siblings were born. So that already gives me a one up in terms of the decisions that I can make. And I acknowledge that all throughout the book. So that's something that I think is cool in comparison to how other books are written. I talk a lot about how college is not the only way for you to be successful. I will never believe that that's the case. I give entrepreneurship advice as well for people who might want to start their own business and understanding the steps that it takes, but also understanding that not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur, and that you can achieve and acquire great wealth and success without owning a business. Actually, majority of people who have extreme wealth were people who had 9 to 5 jobs. CEOs make a lot of money. They make a lot of money. I think the CEO of Google's annual package is like 200 million or something like that. Of course, Google is a large organization, but it's just the point of and the reality that not everyone is meant to own a business, but you can work for a business and still reach the level of wealth that you desire. So that's the book in summary.
Thank you so much. Question: what advice do you have for people postgraduate, aside from keeping in touch, like you mentioned, and being on LinkedIn? What other
Mhm.
advice do you offer people once they graduate?
I honestly, I really think that LinkedIn is the number one thing in working with recruiters. And I think working with recruiters like 6 months before you're even about to graduate, because recruiters, more and more companies are using recruiters to find talent just because companies are so inundated with just workload that they don't have the time to like look for candidates themselves. So they'll have an internal recruiter or sometimes external recruiters.
Hmm.
I also think people should be open to different types of work. Not all work is full-time employee with benefits. Actually, the first biotech job I had was a contract job. I was a contractor working for a pharmaceutical company. But from that contract, I was able, working for a huge name, I was able to break into other biotech organizations. So being open to the different opportunities that are out there, as well as networking with recruiters and former alumni.
Okay, thank you. Um, what is the one thing that you hope the person reading your book will walk away with?
I think hope. I definitely think that I hope people walk away feeling hopeful and more encouraged and motivated. Like being in college and graduating and not having a job is the most depressing and worst thing ever, because you feel like you just spent 4 years of your life, and now you don't even know what to do. And that's where a lot of people settle in and they're like, I wish I didn't even go to school. It was a waste of time. It was so dumb. I wish I didn't go. You don't need it. And then they forego their degree and probably pursue something else. But
Mhm.
I hope when people read their book, they still feel appreciative of the college experience. And there's a whole chapter 7, I think is I can't remember. Wow, so bad. I can't remember the name of the chapter, but chapter 7, I talk about the importance of gratitude. And it's such a buzzword, and I hate that. But I really think it's important to be reflective of where you once were versus where you are. And even if you don't feel like college is worth it anymore, still having the opportunity to experience college. I met some of the most amazing people. I rediscovered who I was.
Mm.
I grew as a person. I felt like I had an identity crisis being from LA and not being around people of color versus going to the East Coast and being around so many people of color.
Yeah.
I was like, who am I? And who was I for the past 18 years? I would not be who I am right now if I didn't go to college. So I just think that I would like for people to walk away feeling hope.
Absolutely. So, hope, gratitude. I love that because this is a book that's giving you steps of what you can
What
expect
to do.
to do. But then you leave
Hmm.
with almost like a spiritual. I don't know what you would call it, but that's nice to include in a book that is
Yeah.
about something else. That's really
I
good.
start the chapter actually talking about how I was diagnosed with a learning disability.
Hmm.
And my school district, just like where I went to school, always made me feel like I was never going to do anything. No one thought I was going to go to college. My college advisor in high school was like, I think you don't have the grades for a 4 year. You should just go to a 2 year. I had like a 3.5, but it was the average GPA at my high school was like 3.7 or 3.8. So everybody was overachievers. So when you're the only underachieving person, it's easy for them to say that. So for me, I always reflect on the fact that so many people thought I wouldn't be in college that it made me feel like I wasn't going to be able to achieve anything outside of, I don't even know.
Yeah,
So that that in itself has kept me so grounded in the fact that, yeah, I'm grateful no matter what the outcome is.
I love that. Yeah. Okay. Was there anything else that you wanted to share with us before we close out? We don't have any questions right now. This is a reminder for y'all watching. I see y'all watching. You see the numbers going. So if you have any questions, please don't be shy. Ask them right now before we close out. But did you have anything else you wanted to share that you feel is poignant for people to know, even if they don't purchase the book, or why should they absolutely purchase the book for someone in their life who is in school
Yeah.
right now, or maybe who just graduated, about how they can benefit from it?
Yeah. I think the book is really great for parents or like even anyone who's in school. Even if you've graduated school already, I've had some people read the book and say like, first of all, I didn't even know half of this stuff. Or I didn't even know that this is how you could negotiate salaries or get more money, or that I could even make six figures so early on as a graduate without being a software engineer. So there's a lot to be learned in the book, no matter who you are. And I think that if you're just interested in understanding a different perspective, or you're interested in helping someone achieve, or you're just interested, maybe you want to know how to write a book. And so writing a book is something you're interested in because anybody can write a book. I didn't go to school to be a writer. You read the book for that case. Or if you're interested in social media, I would also read the book because I talk a lot about the reality of pursuing like a career in social media and what that really means. Um, and if you're interested in entrepreneurship, there's something for everybody in the book.
Excellent. Okay, so y'all heard it. There's something for everybody. If you're interested in social media, if you want to know how to get your groundings while you're in school, the things you need to be looking out for now, get the book. Get the book for a loved one. Get the book for yourself. If you're still in school, if you just graduated, like she said, everyone can benefit. So you can do that by going to sankofa.com or coming to our store, and we hope to see you soon. Kyyah, it's been a real pleasure.
I
I
appreciate it.
really hope that you come to DC one of these days so that you can stop hounding me about this being a virtual event, in person for your book.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
No
And thank you
problem.
everyone for watching.
Yes, everybody have a great and a safe night. Peace. Peace.